This week, I'm on the hunt for elk with my bow in central Montana. This is near the same spot that I hunted with Phelps and Dirk 2 years ago. So I'm going in here pretty confident, optimistic, because I know the lay of the land. Packed up 9 days worth of gear on the ATV. Now my plan is to take that to about 4 or 5 days worth of gear in my backpack and go backpacking from here. Saw quite a few trucks at the trailhead, and I saw some of the other hunters that are in here. They were already leaving. They did not have a good elk report for me, but that's okay. There's definitely other people hunting this zone, but not gonna do what I'm gonna do, which is hopefully find elk and then sleep with them, sleep near them. Right now, it's about 6 o'clock. I got 2 hours till dark. I'm gonna unpack the Can-Am, throw together some food in my backpack, make sure I got enough for 4 or 5 days, hang the rest of it, and then get up on this ridge that's above me here and listen. My main goal is to just hear some elk, make a game plan for the morning, and get a good night's rest. See what happens. It's my first morning. Slept out last night. A bull started bugling pretty good about 2 a.m. Bugled for a couple hours. Then it seemed like he disappeared. I just sent out a locator bugle, and one answered pretty much in the direction that I kind of wanted to go and hunt anyways. So it's nice because it made my decision for me. Man, it looks pretty good from the little bits and pieces I'm getting. So I just left camp, made it halfway up this ridge and heard a bugle on the other side from camp. Well, as of right now, there's 6 cows and 1 bull. The bull's kind of cool looking. He's a real pretty 6-point on one side. I can't tell what he's got going on the other side. He's got like really nice fronts and maybe some junk, and then just kind of like a single main beam with no other points. His right antler's kind of deformed somehow. Unfortunately, I'd be chasing them, but they're working deeper onto private. But when I first heard him bugle, I think he was actually bedded on public. But I'm not gonna spend too much time watching them, as much fun as it is. It's good to see that these elk are on their feet.
One outfitter I worked for would say, "Up the hill, down the hill," when describing elk hunting. He was joking and serious all at once. Elk hunting is easier the lighter your pack is, so I try to leave camp behind when I can. But if I really want to sleep with the elk, camp needs to be on my back at all times. So you might be wondering, why is he carrying those funny looking sticks on his back? Well, they're climbing sticks used to get into a tree for saddle hunting white-tailed deer, usually. Last time I was in here, we saw so many well-worn wallows, we figured that sitting in a tree over one of these wallows would surely create an opportunity. I packed them all the way in here. I had to try it. I climbed into a tree and sat until dark. A bear came in, but it spooked before we got it on camera. No elk ever showed. Although it wasn't successful that day, I'm not giving up on it. The right wallow in the right spot could easily have a midday bull visit.
I can't tell exactly, but 300 or 400 yards ahead of me here, there's been an elk barking for coming on into an hour now. I don't know what got it spooked. Could be other hunters. It sounded like the bulls were starting to move up this crease here, up this bowl to where I was. And then that barking started happening and they went the other way. The bulls are still bugling, but they're on the other side of the barking cow or barking elk, so I'm just gonna hang out and have a snack. Let's see what happens. Oh my God. There's two elk silhouette decoys out there in the meadow. It's just a part of hunting public land. You don't get it to yourself. That's probably what that elk was barking at, is those decoys. That bull just answered me. Unfortunately, where he's bugling from is probably on private. It's a game you play a lot. You always seem to be hunting these boundary areas. So my plan is right now, since these bulls seem to have simmered down, they're not really moving, I'm gonna get above them in elevation, and as the air warms, it's gonna rise up the hill. So I wanna make sure I'm above them. And then I'm pretty much just gonna park it. It's hard to transcend those kind of moments to the camera. I was just sitting here, and all of a sudden, straight up behind me, I can hear heavy footsteps. Some twigs breaking, branches breaking, but it was super thick in there. I probably was within 50 yards, but just, I couldn't see the animal. And then eventually, it just went silent. There's fresh elk sign around. I just need to be patient.
That same outfitter would also say you have 2 hours every day to kill an elk, one in the morning and one in the evening. And again, for the most part, he was right. Elk, being crepuscular animals, are most active during low light conditions, but most days, an hour after sunrise, the elk are looking for a bed and not coming back out to feed until an hour before dark. So this leaves a lot of time midday for snacking and napping. Personally, I think a nap is mandatory. How else are you going to be at the top of your game when the moment of truth comes?
Struggles of a public land hunter. You get woken up by bugles, and you sit here trying to wake up, trying to figure out if they're real bugles or man-made bugles. It took me a second to realize, after I was waking up from my nap, that there's two hunters. Listened to them for about an hour. The one guy sounded pretty good. Had it been just him, I maybe would have gone in there for a closer inspection, but his buddy gave him away. But what I'm learning is that around here, when you have this kind of pressure, you don't leave an animal for later or tomorrow. It's like when you see them or you hear them, go after them. Make the most of the situation that you have. I'm going back to the Can-Am, and I'm gonna change zones completely. I got my butt kicked here. It's not that the elk have been so hard, but there's just a ton of people. I've talked to a couple other camps, and it sounds like there's just camps and ATVs everywhere. So I'm gonna pull the plug and just try another spot that looks good on OnX. Got a 2-hour drive out of here, and then on the ATV, and then 2 more hours in the truck. And so hopefully I'll get in there just in time to hear one bugle tonight. many bulls in Montana, as I'm learning, are flirting with public-private boundary right now. It's 4 young bulls. They're getting a little frisky with each other, chasing each other around a little bit. I'm pretty sure I can call them, but I don't have the wind advantage right now. It's kind of cutting across and maybe even slightly quartering to them. I've only got about 30 minutes of light. It's just not worth it to push it. They seem fairly chill, like nobody's been messing with them. I might circle way around this meadow and get on the east side, because the dominant wind lately has been westerly. So if it's blowing at all in the morning, I'll have that in my favor. It's supposed to be cool in the morning, like low 40s, so I should have a downhill thermal too. They probably won't be too far from wherever I leave them at dark. Just have to wait and see and make a game plan. But I'm really stoked I found some balls. This is the type of morning that elk typically aren't really that into. It's warm, it didn't really get cold last night, and it's kind of windy. It's got that gusty feeling. Just doesn't have that nice, crisp, cool fall morning feel to it. And to confirm that, those bulls are nowhere to be seen or heard.
Nothing. Nada, zilch, zippo. When the elk aren't talking or out in the open feeding, they are tough to find. And that's all I have to say about that.
All this great calling of mine, it's not doing me any good when I can't find any elk. I was just thinking to myself, what a dumbass move that was last night when I had 30 minutes to not just try something. But I have it in my head that, you try something and it ain't right, you blow them out, you don't have them the next day. Well, I don't have them the next day anyways.
A wise man once said,
What I'm learning is that around here, when you have this kind of pressure, you don't leave an animal for later or tomorrow. It's like when you see them or you hear them, go after them. I mean, it is dead still. You could hear a twig snap for hundreds of yards. And I've just bugled half a dozen times. You can see ridges, from half a mile to 2 miles away. And you can't hear a single bugle right now. Anywhere. It just doesn't seem right. That kind of sums up how I feel. Let's see here. It's the second morning in this new spot that I hiked into. Saw the 4 bulls first night and did not make a play on them. I'm regretting that. I should have, because I haven't seen them since, nor have I heard them, nor have I heard any elk. I got one more spot. I got enough time to go pack it out of here, make another drive, and then I gotta hike in 4 miles. Should be a pretty easy hike, gradual drainage. Yeah, the last hurrah. see two bulls. I'm 100% sure that one can hear me bugle. Don't know about the other one. Both these bulls are by themselves and just feeding and kind of meandering through the timber, along the edge of the timber. The rut simply is just not kicked on. I'm just on a streak of finding the zone where there's not a hot cow. That being said, there's still two bulls here. I'm gonna watch them for a few minutes longer and then basically try to get in close and give them some cow calls and start the rut, as Jason Phelps says. Somebody's gotta do it.
No sooner am I on the trail after those two do I spot a third bull. The wind ain't right and it's gusty, but with 3 bulls to mess with, I'm jumping right in.
Unfortunately for this one, my wind is going right to him. But he's trying to head towards timber. I don't know which timber patch. I'm gonna let him disappear somewhere, somehow, behind the horizon or whatever, and I'll make a move towards it. He winded me, but he came in hard. Like I said, it wasn't the best scenario to begin with. He was upwind. It's kind of swirly. But I think he's young enough that I might be able to get on him again and call him back in. He just went over the rise, so I'm gonna boogie up and try to get above him. That was a great sign. He definitely just couldn't hear me. I kept pounding him with that loud, sort of whiny, SGC type cow call. And when he finally heard it, he let out a little bugle and then started running down the hill towards me. But then he stopped where he could see where he thought that cow should be and looked and looked and looked and just it gave it enough time for the wind to get up to him. Okay, live update from Montana. I did get on 2 bulls, called one in to, I don't know, less than 100, unfortunately winded me. And then I was actually working a different bull, and this bull over on this hillside started screaming at me. So it's super wide open on the other side of this ridge right here, and so I can't just go to him. So my plan is now I'm gonna climb this ridge and just get into that timber up there and just pop over, and I think I should have enough cover then to drop back down, and it looks like the trail goes right above where that bull is. I'm saying the wind is so loud that there's a chance that even at like 100 yards he might not be able to hear that loud cow call. So instead of trying to go sneak into these woods, which is near impossible, I'm just gonna work this trail, which I think is roughly right above it. Right below me, straight below me. He sounds quiet, but he can't be that far away because the bottom's only
The bull is not coming to me, so I decide to go to him. If I can get within his bubble, maybe he'll break and come check me out. As I'm creeping along, I spot a bedded cow.
Somewhere in there I got winded. He bugled again, pretty far down the hill. So I snuck down there. Actually found an elk. I thought it was the bull, but it wasn't. I couldn't tell if it was a spike or a cow. But that elk just drifted off. And I called a few more times and I got one half-hearted answer, and then that was it. Have you heard of the 80-20 rule? 80% of us, me including this year here in Montana, after this 9-day hunt, are not going to fill an elk tag with our archery equipment. 20% of you will. That seems like everybody that's on Instagram, so congratulations. I do have to remind myself, everybody out there, that we should all just feel so lucky to be able to come out here and do this, to have all these public lands to do it on, to have healthy legs to carry you around these mountains, to have friends to have these adventures with, to have time away from work to get these kind of adventures. And one of the highlights of this trip was running into a couple different groups of Midwesterners that were out here using up all their PTO, 2 weeks of hunting, and just excited beyond belief to have this opportunity. That kind of enthusiasm is contagious. It definitely got me fired up to push hard right through the end and come into this spot. And it paid off. Got to work 2, kind of 3 different bulls today. It was sweet. So, yeah, don't take it too hard. If you're in the 80% club with me this year, it's all right. I'm sure you still had a hell of an adventure. And yeah, remember, the adventure continues next year, so we'll be back at it.